Allow me to express that a nation with sovereignty, such as Israel, unquestionably possesses the right to safeguard its security. However, there's a growing concern that this legitimate self-defense is sometimes perceived as an open invitation for Israeli forces to conduct substantial operations against Hamas without giving due thought, not only by the Israelis themselves but also by the political establishment in Washington, to the potential far-reaching consequences of such unchecked authorization. The question I pose to you today is, do you believe that this perspective accurately reflects the broader context of the current situation? In my view, it serves as an excellent starting point for a discussion. While recounting the historical complexities in the Gaza and Israel region that culminated in the tragic events of October 7 is certainly vital, it may, at times, pale in comparison to the ramifications of the ongoing situation. The crux of the matter lies in the fact that the Western world, particularly the United States and, to some extent, Israel, may not grasp the profound transformations that have occurred in the region today compared to the landscape of 1973. During my time in Israel, I had the opportunity to witness the commemoration of the 40th anniversary of the 1973 war. It was a time when the landscape was vastly different. Back then, certain regions, such as Egypt, had alarmingly low literacy rates, and the leadership in both Syria and Egypt was marked by uncertainty. The Muslim world lacked unity, and many countries that now hold significant global influence were in the midst of modernization, transitioning from their historical roots to the contemporary era. This historical context is a critical piece of the puzzle we are facing today. Another facet of the challenge lies in Washington's persistent view of itself as stuck in the post-1991 era. People often hark back to our actions in Desert Storm, yet they may not fully grasp the intricacies of those events and their profound implications. What's more, they failed to acknowledge that our military capabilities and structures have eroded since 1991. Questions may arise about the substantial funding allocated during that period and where it went. However, these questions should have been asked earlier. Many rush to spend those funds, often for personal gain, without ensuring that the promised military strength was genuinely being built. This process was marred by a lack of accountability and informed oversight, resulting in a significant waste of allocated funds, while our military forces simultaneously dwindled in size. Over the past 2.5 years, the administration has inflicted significant harm on our armed forces, with a particular focus on the Army and the Marines. These branches have grappled with extensive internal challenges and divisive policies. Their current state is a far cry from what they represented in 1991. While the United States remains a formidable global power, it is imperative to recognize that we are no longer the sole superpower. There are other major players on the world stage. An often overlooked aspect is the depletion of our war stocks. We have expended a significant portion of our resources, leaving us with little to rely on. Our continued involvement in Ukraine has drained our resources without delivering substantial benefits to the American people or the Ukrainian people. Meanwhile, Russia, which initially deployed a modest force to protect its interests, now boasts one of the world's largest and most capable military forces. This transformation should significantly influence our strategic thinking as we move forward. These are the pressing issues that Washington should be grappling with, yet it appears that we may not fully grasp the gravity of this situation. Regarding Israel's recent actions, it's crucial to emphasize that no one questions or disputes Israel's sentiments and reactions in the wake of the events of October 7. History offers numerous examples where similar incidents have triggered outrage, leading to retaliatory actions. In the aftermath of Pearl Harbor, the United States responded to the Japanese during World War II with significant hostility, taking few prisoners. It is essential to recognize that such events can inflame emotions and provoke intense responses. In all cases, war is a devastating and undesirable event. Today, we must remain vigilant to prevent such conflicts from occurring. Currently, there is a complex situation involving Israel, and it shares some common dynamics seen between great powers and smaller nations. When larger powers align with smaller nations, there is a risk that these smaller nations may attempt to exploit this alliance by engaging in conflicts they might otherwise avoid. This doesn't necessarily hinge on whether we like or dislike these smaller nations, but rather acknowledges that, in most cases, war is not a preferable solution. It's crucial to note that the consequences of such conflicts can impact not just the nations directly involved but can have ripple effects on a global scale. In today's world, we become accustomed to thinking of war as something that happens far from our own soil. However, it's important to recognize that the consequences of war can reach us, even in our own homes. This underscores the importance of carefully considering the potential ramifications of military actions. As for the observation made by Alexander Maheu regarding the neoconservative approach, it's true that some political factions may have a tendency to escalate conflicts by increasing military involvement, expanding financial commitments, and expanding the list of countries they perceive as threats. This inclination towards escalation is not limited to a single geographical location. It can be seen in Washington, D.C., in Brussels, and now it appears to be spreading to Tel Aviv as well. What is particularly concerning is that both the United States and Israel, two significant players in this scenario, seem to be focused on an escalation-oriented approach. This approach, which lacks a clear de-escalation strategy, can lead to potentially dire consequences. Prime Minister Netanyahu of Israel seems to believe that he has a unique opportunity to use American military power in a regional conflict aimed at neutralizing all of Israel's adversaries. This situation goes beyond the Israel-Hamas conflict, which has persisted for a considerable period. He has given Netanyahu an opportunity to rally the Israeli nation behind the idea of erasing Gaza. His plan goes far beyond merely removing the population. It involves expelling as many people as possible, tragically taking the lives of those who remain. This strategy is often described as a scorched earth operation, and it implies that in the chaotic urban environment of Gaza City, any military presence, be it Israeli, American, British, or otherwise, is likely to adopt a shoot first ask questions later approach. The consequences of such an operation are severe, and it has ignited outrage across the Muslim world. The situation is highly volatile, and the potential for further escalation and widespread suffering is deeply concerning. It emphasizes the need for careful strategic thinking and the pursuit of diplomatic solutions to prevent the worst outcomes in this complex and delicate situation. Netanyahu no longer seems focused on confining the conflict to Gaza. In fact, it appears that he is ready to expand it, believing that with our support, he can confront and prevail against any challenges. I believe this is a significant mistake because I doubt our ability to do so. This mindset is reminiscent of the thinking from 1991. If we examine our strategic decisions, we effectively isolated Iraq. Iraq had no allies and no one was willing to intervene on its behalf. Hamas is undoubtedly a reprehensible organization. However, when it appears that you are indiscriminately killing Arabs and Muslims just because they happen to be there, regardless of your justification, everything changes. The people in Gaza have the potential to garner support across the entire region and possibly even beyond. Now, let's consider that years ago, Turkey was rarely mentioned, and even today, very few people in the United States bring it up, which is a mistake. Over the past 2 decades, Turkey has gradually shifted away from what we might call Ottoman culture and Ottoman Turkish nationalism. The Turkey of Ataturk's secular experiment has all but vanished. While they still pay tribute to him and consider him a figure of importance, it's evident that Turkey has moved in directions that are entirely counterproductive from the perspective of Mustafa Kemal. He aimed to modernize and Europeanize Turkey while cleansing it of any form of religious nationalism. Over the course of many years, the Turkish nation has diligently cultivated an exceptionally sophisticated and proficient military force, setting them apart from their regional counterparts. The Turks possess a rich martial history and are widely recognized as exceptional soldiers. Their officer corps, in particular, has transformed significantly, now demonstrating unwavering loyalty to President Erdogan and his strategic vision. Furthermore, Turkey has maintained enduring diplomatic relations with Pakistan, a connection with deep-rooted origins. Pakistan has consistently assured Turkey of its readiness to provide nuclear weapons if the need arises, a commitment that has been publicly affirmed in the Pakistani parliament. When considering the evolving landscape in the region, it is evident that Egypt, Jordan, and Syria, among others, have undergone substantial transformations. The populace is more educated and well-informed, with the pervasive influence of social media. These developments have altered the dynamics significantly. One intriguing incident worth noting occurred at an airport in Dagestan, a Russian province inhabited by people of Turkish origin, often referred to as Turkic. What many in the West fail to grasp is that, with very few exceptions like Tajikistan, the people from the borders of Mongolia and Kazakhstan in the east to the Mediterranean speak a language similar to that of Mr. Erdogan. Even in Tatarstan and Crimea, people have access to Erdogan's speeches and they are closely attuned to his message. The consequences of his words have left them infuriated. An incident at the airport, although involving no Israelis on the plane, stirred emotions. They discovered a single citizen disembarking the plane, and it's safe to assume that the language they shared was not conducive to a friendly exchange. This episode highlighted the shared linguistic and historical ties that extend from the borders of Mongolia and Saka all the way to the Mediterranean, underscoring the broader context of the situation. It is crucial to understand that the sudden wave of antisemitism witnessed in this context was not a random outburst. Across Central Asia, Jews coexist with their neighbors peacefully. The hostility was primarily focused on Israel and influenced by what people like Erdogan have conveyed through the media. Influence extends far beyond mere rhetoric. Contrary to those who question his seriousness, Erdogan is deadly serious in his pursuits. One significant demonstration of Erdogan's strategic intent is the massive deployment of 100 Turkish naval vessels. This show of Turkish naval power is no mere showmanship, it represents a calculated move on his part, signifying his intention to wield considerable influence and assert Turkey's presence in the region. In summary, Turkey's military, bolstered by a capable and loyal officer corps, the long-standing diplomatic relations with Pakistan, and Erdogan's powerful influence over the Turkish-speaking populations from Central Asia to the Mediterranean, has led to a significant shift in the geopolitical landscape of the region. The recent events and incidents discussed underscore the evolving dynamics and the far-reaching impact of Erdogan's actions and rhetoric.